Welcome back to another video, guys. I hope everybody's having a great day. In today's video, we're going to be talking about if a Tesla can go 1 million miles. Now, these are electric cars. Electric cars have significantly less moving parts than an internal combustion engine powered car or an ICE car. Now, those things have thousands of moving parts within the drivetrain and the motors itself, engines I should say. So the Teslas and pretty much any other electric car uses a giant battery and then motors to power the axles and propel the car forward or backwards, and it's pretty impressive that they can do that with such a simple drivetrain. However, it costs so much because of the materials and everything that you're going to need for the car, like raw materials and everything, and batteries and mining and everything is going to be kind of a problem. So yeah, always be wary about that. That's one of the many reasons that these cars are just so expensive, is the batteries alone. Now let's go ahead and talk about the batteries in depth a little bit more on this Tesla Model 3. So in my opinion, I think the Tesla Model 3s and the newer Teslas are going to be the ones that are going to be able to reach 1 million miles flawlessly, or at least with minimal issues. There are older 2012 to 2015 Model S's that have well over 400,000 miles, I think it is, and there's some with even over 600,000 miles on some of the extreme examples, which is really mind-blowing. Imagine putting that many miles on just one car alone. I don't know if I would be able to drive the same car 1 million miles unless it was this one. Well, there you go. If you find a car you like, you can drive it into the ground. And for some people, driving a car into the ground is easy, but for others, like Tesla owners, it's a little bit harder. Batteries on this 2020 Model 3 Performance. The initial EPA range was around 300, so it was rated at 299, but you could get more, you could get less, depending on how you drive and the driving conditions itself. And then the real-world range that I'm actually getting is around 260 miles, and, do with that as you will. But I think it's a very useful amount of range. Would I like more? Obviously, I would love a car with at least 600 miles of range. That would be my ideal, because I drive a lot and I don't like plugging in a lot. One of the reasons that Elon Musk says that he doesn't want to really do a high mileage car is because they don't need to, because you're going to be lugging around a lot of extra battery, because a normal person's daily commute is around, well, it's under 100 miles. It's around 20 to 30 miles a day, which, that's not real. For a person like me who drives over 100 miles a day for videos and stuff, there's other people who drive well more than that, just for a regular commute to a regular job, and it's insane to think about, But these cars are probably the perfect daily commuters. If you can't afford it, you are going to be actually saving a pretty decent amount in gas, and maintenance, oil, nothing like that. And the main thing that we should probably talk about here is battery degradation. So battery degradation in increments of 250,000 miles is around 3 to 10%, depending on how you charge, how you use the car, conditions and everything like that. It's really dependent on all those things. So there are variables, trust me. Not every car is going to obviously be able to make it that long, and it depends on how you drive it. It depends if you're a spirited driver or not. If you are not a spirited driver, your car is going to last a lot longer, but if you don't use your car hard, it's going to last a lot longer. So always keep that in mind. That's just any car in general, and any kind of wear and tear item in general. Now you may be asking, why is there such a large gap? Well, depending on how you charge it is probably the most important thing. You're not allowed really to, well, you can obviously, but it's not recommended to charge these things above 90%, because first of all, you're going to mess up the regenerative braking system. It's not going to have any energy to capture and put anywhere, so you're just going to be using the friction brakes, which is going to be using the wear and tear item more, because you do have regenerative braking in this car, which is pretty impressive. Regenerative braking uses the deceleration of the cars, and it basically uses the motors and the energy created by that to put it back into the battery. So whenever you decelerate, not even touching your brakes yet, you decelerate by lifting off the accelerator pedal, which is really impressive, and that's where the term one-pedal driving comes from. Basically, what Tesla recommends is you charge it you keep the battery between 20 and 80 or 90%. So basically, between 20 and 90% is the optimal range to keep your battery lasting way longer than other people who would just charge to 100 every day and not reap the benefits of, charging your battery to what it should be, because you're going to get a pretty decent amount of range out of this. Unless you're driving road trips, I don't recommend charging up to 100 or even above 90 for that matter, because like I said, 91% you'll start to lose your regenerative braking a little bit, which it kind of just destroys the whole driving experience of the car, because it's like one-pedal driving. That's why I drive this car, because I get that kind of just weird sci-fi kind of driving experience with this thing. You don't have to drive it like a normal car, plus it drives itself, and we'll get into that later. The next thing regarding batteries is just the battery warranty in general. So it also comes with a drive unit warranty, but I'll get into that in a minute. So basically, it's 8 years or 120,000 miles for the brand new Teslas, like the performance models and the higher end ones. Other lower end models, like the lower end Model 3s, are going to be 8 years, 100,000 miles. So you get an extra 20,000 miles whenever you have performance or the upgraded trim packages, which I get because there's a lot more that could go wrong. And you're probably going to be using that a lot more than you would a regular car, because I have no idea. Going on rallies and sports cars just seems like a thing that happens a lot these days. But anyway, so battery replacement cost is around $15,000 to $20,000, and I know that number is going to scare a lot of people, but you do have to realize that these things do have a decent warranty. However, after the warranty expires is when you're probably going to want to trade up for another car, because these things actually hold their value pretty well. Even over 100,000 miles, these things are still going for at least 70% of their value, if not 80 or 90. If not more. There are some cars that are actually selling, well, lower mileage, obviously, like 2020 models that are selling for same, if not what they bought it for, if not more, is what I meant to say. They're probably getting $5,000 to $10,000 over what they paid for, because they're just in such high demand and they could get that car today. So basically, if you have a Tesla and you sell it on the private market, and you could sell it basically for whatever you want, because you could have the person come and bring a trailer, and that's it. You could just cart it off then, and that'll be it. You know, that'd be easy. Wire transfer. Okay, so charge cycles that I've counted for my car at least, and I've had 55,000 miles on it. I've had it for about 3 years now. 400 charge cycles that I've counted at least, so there could be more. The average lifespan for a battery pack, Tesla battery pack, is between 300 and 500,000 miles, so 300,000 and 500,000. Basically, you're going to need 2 to 3 batteries to get to 1 million miles, depending on how they're treated. Like I said, charging cycle amount, driving habits, and climate. There are many factors coming into play here. So the next thing I want to go ahead and talk about is the drive unit and motors and connections. So basically, the warranty, we're going to go ahead and get that out of the way. Like I said before, it's matched with the battery drive unit warranty. It's 8 years, 120,000 miles for higher end models, and other models, like the lower end ones, are going to be 8 years, 100,000 miles, which is still a really good warranty. However, that's not bumper to bumper, that's just for the battery and drive unit, fortunately. So these motors can last the life of the car if treated properly. Possibly needing replaced if driven very hard or in harsher conditions, just getting, weather all over it. If you hit something underneath your car, if you hit something on the road that goes underneath your car and damages the battery in any way, you could definitely have a bad experience in the future, which is a terrifying prospect. It could take something as small as that. So always be extremely hyper vigilant, or not hyper vigilant, but you want to be vigilant on the road. Just pay attention for road debris. Now, if you own a Model 3, you can probably expect $5,000 to $7,000 you're going to be paying for a replacement motor, and that's on Model 3 and Y. On the Model S and X, you're probably looking between $15,000 and $20,000 per motor. At least for the Plaids, the dual permanent magnet rear motor, you're going to need at least $15,000 to $20,000 for that. And the front motor is probably like $5,000 to $7,000, maybe $10,000, depending on what it is in the newer Model S's and the Model X's, because those are higher end vehicles. They use way higher end motors, way bigger motors to propel such big SUV with a bigger battery and everything like that. So you're going to have a little bit more wear and tear on those things. However, they are bigger, so it might compensate. I don't know, it might balance out. Hopefully, knock on wood. But anyway, I am getting a little bit sidetracked. So this is kind of an important time to bring up wear and tear. So just normal daily items in the car, like seats. So seats do a great job at holding up until the seat motors for the positioning fail. Then you're going to have to replace the entire seat. I don't think they can replace just the motors and the mechanisms at the time. They have to replace the entire thing at once, which is kind of annoying to think about, but hey, that's what you have to deal with whenever you have cars with power seats and cars that are just expensive. You're going to have expensive repairs to keep up with the expensive car. Yeah, anyways, so for the screen, you're going to be touching that a lot, so I highly recommend an oleophobic screen protector, and a shatterproof screen protector, because you never know what you're going to do. You never know what's going to come in contact with that big screen in the middle of your car. If you have something in the back, you brake too hard and it comes up and destroys your screen. That's like at least $3,000 probably for the Model S and X, and probably I'd say between $1,500 and $2,500 for the Model 3. The next thing is brake pads. So for all Teslas, this is actually kind of impressive, and especially for the new Teslas that have the brake hold feature. So basically it uses the regenerative braking all the way down to 5 miles an hour, and then it uses the friction brakes. It'll blend that in so it's just so seamless that you don't even notice that. So that's basically where you get your one pedal driving from. You can do it all the way down to 0 miles per hour, because that's it's using the regenerative braking and then blending with the friction brakes. Pretty cool. And you don't even need to use your friction brakes until really 5 or 10 miles an hour. decelerating, or unless you're in an emergency situation, or you're just spirited driving, you're going to need your brakes then, of course. And the last two things I want to talk about, battery degradation. That's going to vary on climate, driving style, and kilowatt hour size, charge cycles, everything like that. Charging it over 90, charging it under, or driving it under 10%, 20%. That's definitely not good for the car. So, like I said before, you're going to want to keep the car within 20 and 90% to keep the battery in optimal condition. And yeah, you're pretty much just going to have to take a lot more care into these cars than you would think. They're not totally maintenance free. It's not like you just drive it and pay attention to nothing. You still have to pay attention to everything, like normal things, like it's a car. You're gonna have to pay attention to the tires, brakes, wear and tear parts, turn signals, headlights, taillights, everything that is in any other car. It's pretty much just the drivetrain that is changed. Well, that and the full self-driving tech, the giant infotainment screens, the Ryzen chips in the new one, the PS5 levels of performance in the GPUs. I could go on for days about this, but I won't. I'm going to make more videos about it anyway in the future. So yeah, that really kind of just sums some of this up. Can a Tesla go 1 million miles? Yes, it can, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. Like I said, you're probably going to be 300 to 500,000 mile lifespan for the battery, so 2 to 3 batteries, and a battery replacement is around $15,000 to $20,000. So think about it. Possibly $60,000 for battery. At what point do you want to just diss that car, scrap it, and have them recycle the battery and just buy a new one? I don't think I would put 1 million miles on one car, but the fact that they can, if you take care of them and everything like that, these are going to be significantly less maintenance and everything like that, of course. It's just catastrophic whenever something does break, because there are so few parts. So if something does break and you have to get it fixed, good luck with Tesla service, because they are a little bit of a pain in the butt. You need at least 2 to 3 weeks for them to actually have an open time slot for you to even look at your vehicle. And of course, I said motors were expensive too. They're between, I'd say, $5,000 and $20,000 depending on what motors you have. Like if you have the one in the rear-wheel drive long range, it's like probably $4,000 to $5,000. If you have a dual permanent magnet motor, like if you have in the Model S and X Plaid, you're probably looking at $15,000 to $20,000 per motor, or per motor assembly, which is insane. So yeah, a Tesla can go 1 million miles, yes, but you're gonna really have to pay for it.